Life is complex, whether it be through the means of mathematics or through the lens of science. We tend to simplify things we observe to try to grasp a better understanding of our universe. Through this process of discovery, trial, and error reveals a nerve-wracking feeling of not being able to fully comprehend concepts while trying our best to absorb information. This begs the question: if creation is so intricate and perfectly crafted, how much more is the Creator Himself? No human being can confine God to a bubble, nor claim to fully understand the very aspect of His character. However, God has allowed such simple creatures as ourselves to come to an understanding that there is a God through mediums including logic, nature, and history. This overwhelming evidence pointing towards a creator suggests that no unbiased human being can deny the existence of God, as every creator leaves behind a signature. Think about iconic symbols like the Nike swoosh or the Jordan Jumpman. In our everyday experiences, we see how distinguished features of a creation are purposely displayed to spotlight the creator. God works in a similar way. Being a part of His creation, we are marked with distinct traits that no other creature on earth has. For instance, we have a strong sense of morality that is not taught. We are able to understand creation at a deeper level, and we have an innate desire for fulfillment. God has placed these hints and so many other illustrations in our daily lives to not only reveal that there is a God, but to reveal who He is. For example, take the powerful emotion of love. The most powerful impact one can do for another stems from love, serving as the key to a bountiful life. If humans just loved one another, this fallen world would be closer to paradise. Yet to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor the way you love yourself is ideal, but impossible for many. With love comes peace, with love comes understanding, with love, barriers fall. If human love has the potential to change the world, the power to cause enemies to become friends, then just try to imagine the greater radiant love of God, the type of love that is more than mere emotion, the love that causes us to put others above ourselves, and choose restraint and mercy even when wrath is deserved. The love that causes us to shift the focus off of ourselves and focus on the well-being of others, neglecting our desires to make the choice to love. In the absence of love, wickedness, bitterness, and hatred flourish, causing death, pain, sorrow, and suffering, because without love, evil persists. Looking at the history of man, it may seem as if evil triumphs over love. But can darkness overpower light? Light eradicates the darkness, and darkness cannot stand in its presence. The same can be said between the dichotomy of love and evil, as well as our relationship with the author of love. For our sin is a stain that separates us from the presence of an all-holy God, and our sin gives us the identity of being a sinner. Despite this fallen state, we all have the ability to do good. However, our good deeds do not negate the reality that we are all sinners. Think of a person who kills a man out of cold blood and then repents and does good deeds for the next 30 years. Regardless of how much time has passed, he is still a murderer and still a sinner. His sorrow does not nullify his sin, and his repentance and good works does not bring back the person he killed. His sin will stick with him and will define him as a murderer and a sinner. Even with a less drastic example, if someone says one lie, they are a liar and a sinner for life. By these standards, no man is capable of escaping his identity of being a sinner. So how then can we be reconciled with a righteous and just God? How can darkness exist in the presence of light? Simple answer: it can't, and we can't. God is light, meaning that He is good and the standard of goodness. We are darkness, meaning that we are sinners and we bring calamity by opposing God's standard of goodness. Just how darkness cannot be in the presence of light, sinners cannot be in the presence of God. How then can we be reconciled? And if we cannot do it ourselves, then who can? God can. Just as God is light, Jesus is the light as well. Him being a sinless being exposes His divinity because He kept the standard that only God can keep. He did what no human could do. He did the impossible, which is only something God can do. But then there's also the love Christ displayed, the love of God, the love that transcends human understanding, the love that challenges us to love our enemies, pray for those who persecute you, and to choose to be a bondservant to God. The same love of Christ is the love that restored man's relationship with God when Jesus sacrificed His life and undeservedly paid the penalty of sin, allowing darkness to enter into the presence of light with a barrier of His blood shed to cover us from the condemnation of our sin. He is the propitiation, the atonement for our sin, and all have the opportunity to relish in the presence of God through what God has done for us. If Jesus is not God, then His sacrifice will be meaningless. Him being God makes Him more worthy than all the world's good deeds combined. Him being God would attest to the character of God's unconditional and undeserved love that every man has the opportunity to embrace freely. This love of God is incomprehensible, yet at the same time, it is tangible for all men to receive. The greatest love is given freely and requires the greatest sacrifice. Great love is sacrificing your life for a friend. Christ sacrificed His life for His enemies. When we sin, we oppose God, we rebel against God, we are enemies of God. But God still loved us enough to die for our transgressions so that we may be fulfilled in His everlasting presence, adopting us as His beloved children and transforming us from His enemy to His friend. There is no other love that matches that. There is no other message that carries more weight than the message described in the Bible. Love is God's signature footprint, and I urge you to pray sincerely to God that He may reveal this truth and this love to you. And I urge you to pray that no matter what the cost may be, you follow the light and give your life to Christ.